The world's greatest greenwash. The oil and gas industry survived on this. It's very clever. Who drove to work? Just stick your hand up. Okay, so they're going to have you believe that it's your fault. Okay, you've got the heating or the air conditioning on, or you're going to switch on your dishwasher. It's your fault because you're burning coal. Actually, that's a lie. That's a complete lie. What happens if it's the public's fault, everyone's fault? It's no one's fault. The people who are guilty get off scot-free. If everyone is at fault, no one is. It's clever, really clever, but it's not true. People are at fault. Business leaders like me, if you're going to put anyone's head up on a spike, start with mine, because I want to see you do it to the other 999 as well. It'll end global warming. So not more than about 1,000 of us are responsible for leading the world out. And there's a subset in that of around 50 who can really drive it. So this is manageable. This can be fixed. We're not dealing with an amorphous mass. We're dealing with a group of people who can make decisions. And I know what's happening. Have you got a pen? A pencil? There's a pen against Prime Minister Sean's back, okay? And it's called public opinion. Okay. And Sean is saying to the business sector, I've got this pencil in my back. It's called public opinion. They're telling me that to get you business community to change, and business community saying, we can't. There's no technology. You're just going to have to suck it up. Well, we're at that cusp where we are changing. We are, as Fortescue, the highest performing total shareholder return company in the last quarter of a century in Australia. And we're a big, heavy, smelly industrial company which is burning 1 billion litres of diesel a year. I want you to absorb that. We're no little Apple with fancy ads saying we're going to go green and we don't make any difference anyway. We make a difference. BHP, Rio Tinto, Vale, we make a huge difference. But the highest performing company out of that group is Fortescue because we're going green. That's contrary to popular opinion where going green is thought to be very expensive, burden on shareholders. That's rubbish. So I want to say that global warming is here. You've experienced 3 months above 1.5 degrees already. The last month was over 1 3/4. Global warming is accelerating. Unfortunately, floods, catastrophic heat waves, fires, there's a reason why this is happening. It's not CNN beating it up. There's a proper reason. So the new threat, and one we can solve but must be understood first, is yeah, sure, temperatures are rising, we all know that, but there's a great British scientist went on to be chairman of the Royal Society, put himself in a room at 120 degrees Celsius. Right? That's above boiling. Survived for 30 minutes, walked out. So did his dog. Right? Put a puff of humidity into that room, they would have died. Super dry, your thermoregulatory system is brilliant. Add humidity, no longer brilliant. I'll just walk you through that. There's something else which is rising dangerously fast. For every 1 degree Celsius, humidity rises by 7%. You get 1.5 degrees, you're in 1.5 degrees now. Accept it, you are. It just hasn't been sanctioned, but you're living in it. Your humidity on your planet has risen by 10%. 80 to 90% humidity at low temperatures is going to kill you. So I just want to say this is not a small amount of humidity increase we're talking about for the 1.5% being a total of 10. Well, that's what's happening. You've got a feedback loop. Okay, the hot air holds more humidity. As humidity rises, it's supercharging energy in the atmosphere. Think of it like the fuel, hydrogen, into the climactic system. It's driving the more violent storms, floods, and cyclones that you're seeing. Okay, in Australia, it's not uncommon to have a drought and huge bushfires and massive floods now in the 1 year. You know, my organisation put $70 million into a fire and flood campaign using the greatest technology there is because we're getting fires and floods within months of each other. That's a supercharged atmospheric system because of the fuel in it, which is humidity, and it multiplies impact. Don't think, please, that your atmospheric scientists are going to tell you that it couldn't happen in London, or more likely Paris. It could. It happened in Libya. warning shot. 11,000 people died or got swept out. So I'm just putting on the table, you're not immune, Cambridge. You live in a country where 5% of your houses have air conditioning. You get a heat wave with humidity here. Not happy. Prime Minister Rishi won't last. 2 seconds after that. So humidity, as you know, is a greenhouse gas. It's a vicious cycle. We have to stop it. It can kill you in other ways, not just amping up the energy in the weather system. But I want to make sure that everyone knows that, you check yourself in a hospital for COVID. I did twice. Survived. You suffer lethal humidity, you got a 30 to 40% chance of survival only if you make it to hospital. And it's not like drowning or suffocating, it's a really horrible death. I've said this to politicians, said imagine it's you who will experience this, because your people will. And don't be surprised when you denied global warming or when you didn't act and you were culpable because you were told and you knew and you did nothing, that there will be legal culpability. That's why I got an audience. So heat and humidity is what we can't handle. 31 to 35 degrees in Australia, that's just a normal day. We get amped up humidity across northern Australia, we're going to lose large stretches of our impoverished and Indigenous populations because, the government provides air-conditioned houses, they break down and they stay broken. For those of you who study health or disease with humidity, you'll know small poky little houses in humid environments without air conditioning are the worst environments to survive in. So basically your body heat can't escape. If you're walking out there, it's going to be a little warm, but your body's going to keep you thermoregulated. Add in humidity, it can't. Wet bulb effect. So your heart rate accelerates, pounding headaches, vomiting. I'm just telling you what happens. This is all human biology, case after case after case. I'm going to show you a couple, a very sad couple. Your blood pumps 4 times more than normal. Within minutes to hours, your body temperature can rise to a very dangerous 41 degrees. That's the beginning, sadly, of the end. That's when your blood protein structures unravel, they thicken, you hemorrhage internally. Your protein structures unravel, they're like an egg, they're not coming back, right? It's a chemical reaction, they're gone. Hallucination, seizures, coma, heart attack. Make it to a hospital, you might survive. Literally, what we do is we put a pump in one end, take out the blood, and put it back in the other end through a refrigerator. 3 to 4 out of 10 chance of survival even with that. So it's not a happy time. But you're still more likely to say, if you don't make it to hospital air conditioning, of course you're going to die. So lethal humidity, I have to say, is already with us. This is respectable scientists. 1.5 degrees just down the road, the other university, it gets a lot worse. You're in 1.5 degrees, ladies and gentlemen. 2 degrees, it gets a whole lot worse for everybody. Don't think if you're sitting up here in Britain, you're not going to have massive consequences when this hits. Economic, trade, illegal immigration, the whole box and dice. It upend the world. If we don't act now, some countries will go all year with lethal risk. Okay? So far worse than COVID, but there's no vaccine. Only reliable air conditioning could save you, but most of 3.5 billion people, we're talking the tropics and subtropics, the food baskets of the world where so many people live. If you don't have air conditioning, power isn't reliable anyway. In a global heat wave, science is clear. Hundreds of millions, if not billions of lives are at risk if we don't act now. So just want to say, don't think, Cambridge, that we're going to get let off. You want to go travel to India, to China, North America, other places, there's a power failure when everyone cranks on their air conditioning because you have a humidity strike with only average heat. Your fancy hotel room is going to become a coffin. It has before. We haven't had the kind of heat we're having now before. Don't go searching for millions of precedents. You've got an escalating temperature, which is multiplying in humidity. That's what has happened in the past. Borders collapsed. This obviously got Washington very interested. Think Africa to Europe, think Central to North America, think across Asia, think out of Midwest USA. CNN was remarking on this yesterday. The actions we need to take are clear. Now, to my friend who trades in commodities, or advising commodities, one of the companies have stepped away from net. We know where net came from. You know the bastardization of trying to push the world beyond fossil fuels. The word net came in. But I have to share with you that I have the private discussions with the chief executives of Occidental, BP, ExxonMobil. They straight to my face, we will be net barrel of oil 2050. No change. No change. That's how dangerous net is. So as one company, we've walked from it. Okay, it makes life harder for us, but we don't care. We're not going to, most in our analysis, credits have question marks. I'm sure the ones which are advised by Cambridge don't, but I'm not going to put Cambridge between me and human survival. So we've walked from net. Match policy settings to risk, that's euphemism for carbon tax. Demand courage from your leaders. And this is what, if you're a whole bunch of students, I would say to you, not professors, but just allow me to reiterate, we're not short of capital. You hear all this crap about billions and trillions of dollars, all true. But ask, how much money, if we didn't change, would we be chopping into the system anyway? Oh, billions and trillions of dollars. Massive double count, okay? Why do you think the fossil fuel sector is so irate that banks and others are pushing back on them continuing to invest? Because if you don't invest, you'll be like the coal industry in Australia. It supplies 62% of the electricity grid for the East Coast in that dinosaur country we're changing, thank God. But it's on coal, and we're not investing in coal. And therefore, we're getting power outages right when we need power most. Power prices go through the roof. That's what happens if you don't invest those trillions. And I'm saying, invest the trillions, just not in fossil fuel. You're not going to drive to work twice. You're going to drive to work once. You're not going to spend double the energy. If we switch the subsidies from fossil fuel to green, you suddenly won't be consuming a lot more energy. You consume the same amount of energy. You'll just not be consuming energy which you rely on, which is going to destroy your children. That's all we're saying. And we're saying it with actions. So Fortescue is eliminating fossil fuels. Okay, we've got real zero, put the target over our heads. We've saved already in this process, we've committed $6.2 billion. We've saved $400 million already. During the construction process, we're going to save around $3 billion. 6.2, you take away $3 billion. Net investment, $3.2 billion. We'll save $1 billion a year in not buying 1 billion litres of diesel, even with a $10 billion national diesel subsidy, which is going to go. You can rely on that to go. I want to put the lie out there that going green is expensive. It's not, it's fundamental common sense. Cambridge University will argue the same thing. So we're transforming trucks, trains, ships, and planes. We've already done it with the first three to operate green. They're operating. First green ship, long distance, not a little battery electric. Long distance ship will sail into Abu Dhabi with an ammonia fuel cell. Hopefully with Modi on the front, because he's a big hydrogen fan. And we're commencing 5 multi-billion-dollar green energy, green hydrogen, green ammonia projects in the next 6 months. FID, final investment decision. So we're out there, and we're asking Britain, it's going to be hard under Rishi. Europe, easier. China, not as resistant to this message as you would think. They put this message to the Bao Forum, and they got a standing ovation. Lethal humidity became part of the policy of China's major outreach. the USA and India to do no more than this. And just a couple of points from Cambridge. It's a lie that going green is going to cost shareholders. Going green is a great opportunity for shareholders. And as countries, if you don't, your sovereign debt risk is going to change. Profit downgrades will raise the cost of borrowing in fossil fuel-driven countries, reducing access to capital, creating negative economic incentives. China, India and the US expect higher costs as credit scores fall under what is going to happen, climate-adjusted system. I'm feeling it as a heavy-duty industrialist. So universities, I want your help intellectually to get this message out. And when the social media campaign starts in the coming days, and you hear the words green armistice, which is literally taking down all the barriers to fossil fuel, stopping the geostrategic mindless rubbish between India, China and North America, where it affects the proliferation of green energy. Taking down all barriers, critical minerals, technologies, capital transfer, joint ventures, business, everything to do with green. I've asked the 3 leaders of those countries to criminalise policies which get in the road of greening the world. I'm not talking driving a car, I'm talking major policies which exist now. They've got to be dismantled. So I'm saying, look, let's be the first generation to go green, and please believe no more that it's got anything to do with you. You have every right to go visit grandmother in Ethiopia or drive your kids to school without knowing that the fuel you're doing it with is going to kill Gran or your kids. Industry has to change. The steel which holds up this building must be green. The cars you drive, the ships you sail in, everything must be green. And it can be done. And it's profitable. You just got to have the courage. And the point I want to make is the difference between this world cooking and not is character. Character. People who say they can't do it in the business community lack character. They're lazy. They can't be bothered, or worse, they're selfish. I don't want them suffering guilt, Cambridge. I want them suffering shame. We can change.